Hello and welcome to this week's edition of Energy Frontiers, proudly brought to you by the African Energy Chamber, the continent's leading energy sector advocacy group. I am Justina Okechukwu. Let's begin with some of the biggest energy news making the headlines at this time. Africa Oil, through its South African subsidiary, has completed a strategic farm-down agreement for the offshore Orange Basin Block 3B4B in partnership with Total Energies and Qatar Energy. The deal is valued at $46.8 million, with Africa Oil set to receive cash payment in tranches and a full carry of its 17% share in joint venture costs, covering up to 2 oil wells. Zimbabwean state-owned power distribution company Zesa Holdings has unveiled plans to install 1,800 megawatt-hour battery storage system to cushion the effect of regular power cuts. The solution is expected to improve the national grid and push the country's drive for greater renewable energy integration. Helium One Global, the Tanzanian explorer listed on the London alternative market, has announced positive results from its Ntubula West 1 well in Tanzania. The company reported helium concentrations of up to 7.6% at an average flow of 786 barrels per day over a 5-day test. Helium also revealed a significant acquisition in the US, expanding its geographic footprints and boosting prospects for near-term cash flow. Khaleda Petroleum Company of Egypt has announced a new oil discovery in the West Fuebs 1 at the Kalabsha development area of the Western Desert. Egypt's Ministry of Petroleum Mineral Resources says the well was tested by drilling 270 feet into the Paleozoic sands and recovered a 1-inch production opening of 7,165 barrels of oil per day and 23 million cubic feet of associated gas. Denmark has launched the world's first green ammonia plant. The project was developed by a Danish partnership of Topsoe, Skoga Energy, and Vestas. The partnership has received 81 million Danish krone, or approximately 11 million euros in funding from the Danish Energy Technology Development and Demonstration Program. And that's the summary of your energy news headlines. As we take a short break, Libya's oil production, a lifeline for the troubled North African country, is in jeopardy. We have an analyst insight for you on the implications of the Libyan crisis on the global energy market and the country's economy. Energy Frontiers will be right back. Welcome back to the program. The disruption in Libya's crude oil production and exports, which was declared by the country's eastern-based administration on August 26, sent shockwaves through the global energy market. As a major producer of nearly 2 million barrels of crude oil per day, the North African country's absence has contributed to already volatile geopolitical tensions in the Middle East, with companies announcing gradual reduction in oil production. I sat to a chat with Amena Bakr, a senior research analyst in charge of Middle East at Energy Intelligence Group, to get her perspective on the unfolding scenario in Libya, including how much impact the crisis has on oil supply. Here's what Amena told me.
Let's start from the beginning and see what happened. As we all know, that Libya is divided between two governments. You have the government in the east, in Benghazi, and that's dominated by General Haftar, and the government in Tripoli, which is recognized by the UN. What happened is that the Tripoli government tried to replace the central bank governor, which was aligned with the government in Benghazi. And that caused the government in the east to say that they reject this decision and will impose a force majeure on all oil fields, impacting production and exports. Now, this announcement, of course, as you mentioned, caused shockwaves in the oil markets, and we saw oil prices spike by around 7% the day it was announced. It was on Monday. Following that, things kind of calmed down from there. We see oil prices now going down again into the 70s zone. They were previously at 80, as macroeconomic worries are again putting pressure on prices.
So how long do you anticipate that these disruptions to Libya's oil production will last?
Okay, now the size of the disruption itself, what we found out is that so far, all the oil export terminals in Libya have not been impacted. And in fact, all the ledgers showing the vessels coming in are still, active. So the force majeure hasn't impacted the exports yet. If indeed imposed at the rate that they were speaking at, we're talking around 630,000 barrels that could be impacted in terms of exports. Now, in terms of production, we know that the Sharara field, this has been shut down from the beginning. This is not a new shutdown. And its capacity is 260,000 barrels a day. And you have the Elephant field, which is shut down, which is 80,000. So right now, the shutdown and production in Libya is around 340,000. Potentially, it could be a lot more because under the Benghazi government in the east, these are where most of the oil fields are. So if they decide to shut down, the majority of that 1 million barrel per day production of Libya could be hit.
Now, 30,000, that's a lot. Now, is Libya such a crucial player in the oil industry? And how is the situation in that country likely to impact prices moving forward? And how are investors reacting to this?
Any supply disruption, of course, causes shockwaves in the market, but we've seen that kind of ease off. Initially, it was that reaction of, from the market where oil prices, we saw that rise in 80, but today, it seems like a calmer situation with more information coming out that it hasn't been impacting the exports yet. Justina, I just like to note that we're in a market that is also oversupplied to some extent. It's not like in 2011 where we had a situation, Libya's production was also impacted in 2011 and you had other countries stepping in. I remember at the time Saudi Arabia had a special blend. Libya's crude is quite sweet and light, so it's a kind of special grade that is not really available in the market. So there needed to be a special blend by Saudi Arabia to compensate that. So if we do have some volumes, the market already is kind of well supplied, and that's why we're seeing OPEC impose such deep cuts. I don't think there will be that rush to put back barrels into the market. But if in case there is a need, potentially, these lighter sweet crudes could come from South Sudan, but they're kind of inconsistent with their production. So I wouldn't say that they're completely reliable in replacing. Definitely not the full amount. And some can come from Iran, and potentially some from Saudi Arabia again. If we do get some kind of shock or some of these exports are impacted from Libya. Iranian barrels are possible, a possible blend from Saudi Arabia, a special blend, that's also possible. Some Iranian crude also possible. It all depends on the size, but no single country could really replace that volume of this specific grade from Libya.
Two of Africa's top oil exporters, Angola and Nigeria, are looking to deepen their regional cooperation in the hydrocarbon industry. So ahead of the upcoming Angola Oil and Gas Conference scheduled for October, one of Nigeria's energy player, Bluestone Gas and Power Limited, has signed a major deal with the Angola and Nigeria Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The collaboration is expected to harness the combined gas resources of the two countries. So I caught up with Oyedeji Afolabi, a director at Bluestone Gas and Power, to get more details about this partnership and its benefit to all the parties involved.
Angola does not have any policy towards flaring. So what we are now trying to do is to bring in NNPC and the Angola own side of NNPC to collaborate in helping them to create the policies. And this will be one of the discussions we are going to be having in the October conference in Angola, where NNPC will be participating. And between now and then, the legal framework for these policies are being worked upon. We've started that link, and we are collaborating with the authorities to help Angola develop the framework and then be able to utilize the gas for what it is intended for.
Now, what is the estimated volume of compressed gas that Bluestone Gas and Power plans to help Angola to optimize?
Well, I can't say exactly how many million scf or billion scf that is available now. We're expecting those information next week from the Angola Petroleum Corporation. Hopefully, once we get the data, we'll be able to know the volume. But, Angola is just a population of 36 million compared to Nigeria that is over 200 million. Angola and Nigeria have similarities in so many things. So we are like big brothers to them. So I think it's going to be going into trillions of millions scf at the end of the day, because it's similar to Nigeria, and we hope to be able to do more of gas to power, gas to home projects within Central Africa and South Africa using Angola as the hub.
Like you rightly noted, we have the population and they have the land mass, and hopefully that spurs into something. Now, tell me about your plans for expanding operations. I know you're already in Nigeria, you are also in Ghana, but tell me more about your expansion plans and your exports to other regions in Africa.
Okay, basically, yes, we're in Ghana now. We're now in Gambia. We're in Togo. We're in Benin. We are also about to set up another office in Côte d'Ivoire and Cameroon. Basically, our plan is to take gas from Nigeria through the waters to this co-West African states. In Gambia, we are working with the government now to set up 100 megawatts of power. The gas is going to be taken from Nigeria to Gambia. In Togo, we're also doing the same thing and also setting up conversion centers, likewise Ghana and Benin. In Ghana, we are in discussion with Ghana Gas to see how we can quickly roll out in Ghana. And hopefully, in the next 2 weeks, that should be concluded. So our own goal is to develop Africa. We have the talent, we have what it takes to develop Africa, we have the resources, enough of white people telling us how to build our continent. It is time we Africans take the bull by the horn and let's see what we can do. Yes, our foreign partners have always said they like our integration approach, and at least that will give us control of Africa.
Creating a diversified energy mix for an equitable future in Africa. That's what's next when Energy Frontiers return. This is Energy Frontiers. Africa has to focus on meeting its energy needs and not necessarily on energy sources, while aligning its actions with policies that have been published in the industry. That's according to Ademola Ogunbanjo, the Executive Vice President of Owando Clean Energy. Ademola was speaking at the recent Nigeria Oil and Gas Outlook 2024. The industry top executive highlighted the importance of investing in local content, research and technology in order to ensure a sustainable and equitable future for Africa. Let's listen to him.
Some have said energy access is a human right. I don't think so. I think energy access is a privilege. You have to be able to afford it. And but there's a charity aspect of it, which is you price it a certain way for those who can afford it, and then price it differently for those who are yet to be able to afford that first tier price. Because eventually they will. And that's when you think of energy as a trigger for enterprise. So whether it's currently a poor village that loses 74% of their agricultural produce because they do not have processing facilities because they have no access to power. By the time you introduce power to that village, they're able to process, they're able to store, then they're able to start buying the things that consume energy. And as they buy the first device and make more money, they'll buy a bigger device, and then their energy consumption will grow, and that small village becomes a viable economy even for the energy sector. That aspect of the business is not the private sector's business, it's the government's business. And the government is not doing enough. Not yet. But let's understand, Wale made a very critical point about the push by Europe, China, for, energy independence, right? Which is really the key. The cloak of it all is the, climate concern, which, by the way, is real, but you would find that if that wasn't the issue, investment in technology would be what we will see. And what I mean by that is this. Between Europe and China, I bet you it's easy to find a device that sits between combustion and emission, tailpipe, whether it's for your vehicle or for your generator, that takes that gas, that fume, strips it of carbon, stores it in a particular molecular format or powdery format, releases clean air to the environment. When that device is made, we will all drill crude oil like our life depends on it.
Content.
Because the problem is not crude, the problem is not gas. The issue is how we burn fossil and the emissions thereof, and the impact of the emissions on the environment. So carbon capture is an existing technology. Today, it sits on an industrial scale, like your mainframe used to, IBM, and now your phone can do what that mainframe couldn't do. So that device is coming. Africa should be pushing for it. Africa should be investing in research and development for such, because our own issue is existential when it comes to renewable energy and the abandonment of fossil fuels and the lack of foreign investment. A number of countries will go bust on the continent. But unfortunately, you then find that the supply chain integration that Europe is screaming about, and even North America, due to the geopolitics that they're playing with China, only still sees Africa as the supplier of critical minerals. And a lot of us tap dance because we hear about a lithium processing plant in Nasarawa State. What does that mean? That processed lithium still goes out of Nigeria and comes back as battery for us to pay for. Are we not able to manufacture batteries in Nigeria? We've done it before. So why are we rejoicing on mediocrity? Because we've been used so much to some failure and lukewarm development that when you see some level of movement in what is supposed to be the right direction, we start to celebrate
We are
prematurely.
thankful for the small wins.
Oh, please. My point is, energy transition cannot be just if we don't retain the critical value on the continent. What I'm saying is, mine that lithium, manufacture batteries.
Thank you so much.
And one more thing, very quickly, I apologize. We started Orlando Clean Energy 3 years ago. We approached Lagos State, signed an agreement with them to start bringing electric buses and build charging infrastructure across the state, and we plan to expand that across the country. And they initially said, we've looked at it, we don't think it can work. We said, you know what, don't worry, we believe it will work. So we put our money in it, and now it's clear, it will work. We were able to do that because Mother funded us. Who is Mother? An oil and gas company. So let's keep drilling for oil. The world still needs it. But let's recognize that what we're doing today is providing energy to our people first. We will curate that transition on our own terms, in our own time. But first things first, let's be energy secure and let's just hold our own destinies in our own hands.
Have you registered for the upcoming African Energy Week holding in Cape Town this November? This year's edition of the summit will host its flagship session on the future of Africa's energy sector under the theme A Just Energy Transition, COP29 and African Priorities. Speakers will discuss the critical role of COP29 in advancing the global energy transition while addressing the unique challenges faced by African nations in ensuring energy security, poverty reduction, and industrialization. Hurry now and secure your spot. Visit the event's website at www.aecweek.com to register. You can also get a full lineup of the speakers and learn more about the summit. And that's how we wrap up this package of Energy Frontiers at this time. We appreciate you for making the time to watch the show as always. Remember to follow the program on Frontier Africa Report's website, like all the video editions, send in your comments, and subscribe to our YouTube. Kindly follow us as well across all our social media handles as indicated. I am Justina Okechukwu, and it's bye for now.